Yo, what's going on everybody? It's Augie, and today we're doing something a little bit different, man. I don't really got a script for this video, but we're with the homies today talking about some Mashal. So I guess we can just go from the top, introduce you guys, and start the video.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Broken running here, talking. Don't mess me up. Talking about Mashal.
Energy.
Yo.
Why y'all awkward as shit?
No,
Yo, how's it going,
I was
everybody?
good.
This is-
I was good.
Bro, let me.
Man, yo, how's it going, everybody? It's the Masked Man. It's Asra, and yeah, that's right. We're gonna be talking about some Mashal. Now, a quick question, Augie. When we just curious, how many chapters have come out?
Yeah, how far are you, by the way?
I stopped. I caught up like 2 months ago, so I haven't
Okay, so
read
you
since.
haven't read. Okay, so I think we're
Yeah.
at chapter 52. I believe that was the last chapter. We just got a cover
Oh, that's
page
not
and
too
jump.
far.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too
Okay.
far. But we can just talk about
Yeah,
like
we're
everything.
on chapter 52.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
bet.
pretty sure you don't care about anything that's like really going on right now.
I don't care.
mean,
No,
yeah,
it's fine.
okay.
I'll
So
be
we can
fine.
just talk about like the series as a whole and go on from there.
Yeah.
But I just want to do this video today talking about Mashal with you guys because it's definitely my favorite series in Jump right now. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's definitely my favorite. But I just wanted to propose a question to you guys. Like, what about Mashal do you guys like the most?
Well, I'll go first for this. I definitely think it's the comedy
guess I'll-
aspect. Oh.
Who would have thought, bro? Who would have thought?
No. But like seriously, I think when it comes to Mashal and discussing the series, it's something where again it immediately draws comparisons to a mix of Harry Potter, One Punch Man, and Black Clover. You're gonna keep hearing that over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
For sure.
Mashal's comedy is simple, but its execution is hilarious. And for a manga to be able to do that, I think says a lot. There are other mangas out there that try to be funny but aren't. Gintama. But you know, with Mashal, it's genuinely enjoyable from start to finish, and it just gets you nothing but hype and intrigued. And I think when the anime comes out, it's going to break the internet.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to break the internet and be kind of like that next hit series again, very akin to a One Punch Man and a Mob Psycho if it's given that level of animation. So I definitely think the comedy of it, the protagonist is dope as well, and it has this underlying narrative that I think is starting to get more and more importance, at least from where I was at. Although the comedy is still definitely there and prevalent.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely think it's trying to find itself in the story. I feel like right now we're just kind of going through the comedy aspect. We just started our tournament arc, so I believe you're behind just a little bit on that. But I think from where we're at right now to like chapter maybe 100 is when we'll get like the official start to the arc, at least like a serious arc, because kind of like right now we're in like kind of like the comedy slash it's really just trying to find itself in its series right now. But I definitely think it has potential to become like the next big thing in Jump. It's kind of like Gintama in a way, like we said. I mean, you said it's not funny, but it's really just trying to find its comedy aspects right now and then get into something serious later on, just like Gintama.
To kind of build off of that, I think that part of Mashal's strength isn't just being straight up funny. Like, if you take a look at like some of the best like kind of gag or comedy based manga, it seems to be that like it's not solely based on it being like very kind of like haha funny type of thing. Like, yes, it is funny. Yes, the gags and like the humor is really interesting and always great to see. But like with some of my favorite series that implement comedy in their story, like Mashal, Grand Blue, One Punch Man, it always makes sure to integrate, I should say, a little bit of seriousness into the mix, because it's that contrast that makes it so entertaining. Like, for me, the reason series that like or series like Gintama, where there are entire arcs focused on comedy, don't work is because, at least from where I'm at, can't speak to the whole series, it's when it's solely focused on comedy and there's nothing to contrast that, it becomes less and less funny as time goes on.
Yeah.
Hitman Reborn is kind of an example of that, where when you try to push the same joke over and over, I won't mess with it too much.
Gintama
but when you
fans
try to
and
push
Reborn
the same-
fans in the same video, man. Let's get it.
when you try to
already
push
done
the
that.
same joke over and over and over, I feel like not only can the joke not land for a large majority of the audience, which alienates them from reading your manga as a whole, but it also gets very repetitive. Like, even if I did find either of those series initially funny, the fact that it just keeps hammering into my head that, oh, I'm so funny though, like, look at my gags. Like, Mashal does that, but it is also able to have some like real serious character moments. and just like actual, kind of like Matt said, some narrative to it that isn't just solely gag after gag after gag. Which there's nothing wrong if you like that. Just for my taste, kind of contrasting and comparing those things, I think works really well.
I see. Yeah. What about you, Energy? Like, what do you think about like the series as a whole? Or, like,
I think
yeah.
the one thing that really managed to impress me about Mashle, because I'm a pretty unenthusiastic person at times, and Mashle, when it comes to like manga and stuff, it's one of those few series that has really made me enthusiastic with like every chapter, because there's always one moment in every chapter which is just crazy. Like, it'll make you laugh, and then there's going to be one moment in the chapter where everything just ramps up to 100%, and
And
you're
yeah.
out of your seat, and you're just like cheering for Mash because he's always just delivering the fucking fists of justice. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's
Like,
usually at the end of the chapters. Kind of we get like our comedy towards the beginning, or like maybe something to go off like what happened in the last chapter. Then we get our little comedy in there, and then like by the end we'll get something like very serious, and like it's a good mix of both things, especially for this kind of like only 52 chapters right now, and it's really good to see something like this in this this type of series, because I really do think it has the potential to become something like Jujutsu Kaisen nowadays, because like that's kind of like the biggest thing right now. I wouldn't say like Demon Slayer level. I mean, because the only thing I would put into comparison to that is what's going on with JJK right now. But I do think it could become something like how the popularity is with JJK right now.
yeah. Another thing that I think Mashle does really well is when it comes to the art style. The art style definitely works in tandem with those ever-changing kind of like emotional aspects in the series, because the author and illustrator Komoto, they really know how to fucking draw. Like, through most of the series, you can see that they're going with a very bland sort of art style, which isn't a bad thing. But when the serious moments really start to come around, you can tell how much detail and how much precision Komoto can really put into their art style to elicit the fact that yes, this is a very serious scene compared
Yeah.
to the rest.
We see
of the
that a lot
manga,
in like
which
One
is
Punch
somewhat-
Man, so that's kind of like the biggest
I was about to-
comparison.
yeah. That was I was about to say that. Like, in comparison to Murata with One Punch Man as well, it's definitely nice to see those two things kind of work in tandem with each other. What's going on just in terms of the story, and what's going on in terms of the art style as well. It's not kind of like mismatched. It's perfectly timed and perfectly kind of put together, especially the character design as well. I think we've talked about this before, that the character design is something that we're kind of fans of, with like the kind of chunkier upper bodies and the slim
Yeah, the
down legs. It's
yeah.
definitely kind of some kind of Disney Pixar-esque kind of designs.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely like
So
something
really-
like yeah.
Definitely a pretty unique art style in the magazine right now, and I think that just works in its favor even more.
Yeah, so this next like kind of question I was gonna ask you, mainly for you and Ronan, but since we're in kind of like, I would say like the tournament arc right now, where do you guys see the series like going like after this arc, or like with what's going on right now?
As for the tournament arc, I mean, I'm not 100% sure how that's going to go in and of itself. Like, I'd be able to kind of gauge the general way it's going to end, right? Obviously, I think Mash is going to be able to come out on top, achieve his goals in some way. Now, knowing the comedy of the series, it's probably going to be like with a little bit of a caveat where like there's going to
Yeah.
be something that he does wrong. He like breaks something, or like just isn't able
Just
to
like in
complete
the
it.
last chapter, he broke the
Yeah.
crystal. Yeah.
Yeah, like he doesn't complete it complete. He doesn't like end out like end the tournament arc completely on top. Like, he accomplishes his goals. I can imagine his friends being relatively unharmed, at least in comparison to the way they are now. But like, I don't see this being anywhere near the end. This seems like a series that can kind of go on into like an extreme amount of detail. I
Yeah.
can kind of imagine the characters that have been kind of really wary of Mash up to this point starting to gain a little bit more respect for just like the raw strength he has.
Yeah.
And maybe there's like this little bit of a divide between people that are accepting of this this magicless person who still was able to pull off these feats of strength that like rivals, if not completely surpasses anything shown in the series thus far. And there's probably going to be people that are like magic elitists, even in spite of the fact of Mash's just like blatant strength, and are still kind of against him being in their society and being alive.
Yeah, and I definitely think that like right now, none of the people that we're going against or any like the quote unquote antagonists are really like big threats. I think they're all kind of just like set up in a way kind of like Bleach, where like Ichigo goes to the Soul Society and like he thinks all these people like the Gote 13 are quote unquote like the antagonists, but it's really later on during the series they kind of like become your friends and your allies. That's kind of how I see like everybody within the school. Being like kind of his ally. I feel like everything with maybe like up to like 100 chapters or so, we might start to see some sort of like antagonist or something. But I think right now we're just building up the story, building up the comedy, and really trying to find ourselves in the plot.
I haven't really put too much thought into the future, especially this arc, because I'm more so just engrossed in what's kind of going on right now. I haven't
Yeah.
really had too much time to.
What are like your
kinda
thoughts on like
speculate
this
and-
arc as a whole?
I
guess,
think
then?
I will say one thing, and I'll give anyone a piece of advice if you haven't read Mashle yet. If you are trying to get on the series, I would recommend and say that this is the perfect time to get on the series,
Mhm.
because I feel as though after this arc, the story is definitely going to end up kind of finding its main key sort of point as to where the story is just gonna, like, as you said, maybe find its antagonist, kind of progress further in that sense, rather than just kind of do some kind of school activities and stuff like that. A little bit like My Hero, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, so definitely, if you have not read Mashle yet, now is the perfect time, because this tournament arc is definitely ramping up to be something insane. Like every fucking segment in Mashle, it always ends up just going from, like I said, 0 to 100 very, very quickly.
Yeah. So I mean, this next question, like, kind of like for everybody, but how do you guys feel like about Mashle's power system compared to like other Magic series you guys read or watched or whatever?
So I haven't seen Harry Potter, believe it or not. I know people are gonna be like, "What?" No, but I haven't even touched Harry Potter ever.
Mhm.
But in comparison to say another Magic series, for instance, like a Black Clover, I think the current thing in Mashle is pretty cool. But as to where I'm at again, I don't think it's given the most importance anyways, and it's not personally something that I focused on.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of my thoughts and perspective on it. But the other guys can definitely go ahead and chime in and kind of provide some insight
Yeah,
with
'cause
this.
they're a little bit farther than you are.
Yeah.
So go
Yeah.
for it.
So in terms of its magic system, I mean, like, I'm a pretty big fan of overall Mashle, but I don't think the system in and of itself is really that impressive to me. This isn't
Yeah.
to say it's like bad by any means. I just see it as like another magic system. It kind of blends into me in comparison to like I don't know, some power systems that are really good. Like I haven't read World Trigger, but whenever I hear people talk about it, it has like an outstanding power system.
Oh, so
for
is that
example.
Magic?
I don't know if that's magic. I just meant more power system in general, I
okay,
guess.
yeah. I was thinking like a Black Clover, maybe a Magi type of comparison.
Okay,
I mean, we're
okay.
still really early on, so it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of hard
It's
to
a little
like,
bit hard to compare.
with the summoning of the weapons and stuff like that. Like that kind of like really kind of like just gives a little sprinkle of like what we're able to see later on in the future. I think. But like, how do you feel
I think-
about that? Yeah.
I think it gives it potential depth. Obviously, it hasn't been able to execute on that yet. I do think that helps a lot in the serious moments. I do think like having those kind of like abilities that we know could possibly like the trick up somebody's sleeve adds a little bit to the tension, adds that kind of stuff. In terms of like comparing it directly to like a Black Clover, I have to say, like, even though I probably enjoy Mashle way more, Black Clover, just from a magic standpoint, is probably taking that. To be fair, it's just had more time in terms of just chapter count and the amount of like years it's had to establish its system, have people theorize over it, and do all those sorts of things. Mashle, I don't think has that luxury of time. It's still developing. It's still like fleshing out the basis of it, and you have to also keep in mind it isn't strictly just like a battle shonen in the same way that like Black Clover is. It's juggling comedy and it's juggling its serious elements. So I think it's pretty decent at executing its job. I wouldn't say it's outstanding by any means yet, but I do think it has potential to grow as the series moves forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what about you, Energy? Kind of like the same thing or what?
When I originally got onto Mashle, to be quite honest, I thought the whole power system thing, when it came to the magic, it was just going to be a blatant rip-off of like Harry Potter and the way they do
Yeah,
things.
that's kind of how it is right now, but they are switching it up a lot, I feel like.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, the more I've progressed it, and the more I've seen it, especially with the third line reveal, with the release and stuff.
Yeah.
I hope that is more of a rare occurrence rather than something that we're gonna just find out more about like instantly, because these third liners are kind of essentially made to be these rare group of people that you know aren't really around much. And we initially thought about that about the two liners, and then they just started cropping up a lot more
Yeah,
naturally.
that's one thing about Mashal is that like early on we thought like two liners were really rare, and then we get like third liners. It definitely felt like it was going fast, but now that if they don't spam, like I think the main thing that we need to watch out for is these releases. I think a lot of the Divine Visionary, probably all the Divine Visionaries have one, I'm assuming.
I would think so.
Yeah, I would think so as well. But I mean, the power system as a whole, it's decent. I think it definitely has time to grow. But anyways, about like the characters itself, I mean, what do you think that? I mean, it's kind of hard to say because like Mash is kind of very similar to like Mob and Saitama in a way. But like, what about the other characters sticks out to you versus like other Jump manga right now? Or you could just compare it to Mashal in general. It's fine. Like, what sticks out to you the most in terms of the characters?
Besides like obviously Mash.
Yeah, because I mean, you could go on a Mash too, because I mean, yeah.
So I honestly think like Mashal is an example of like simplicity executed well is like really, it's always an interesting thing to see because like in general I don't think like Mashal's characters including Mash are anything like we haven't really seen ever.
For
Right?
sure,
I
yeah.
think Mash is like a pretty straightforward character in terms of like being a caring person who kind of is a little bit of a dummy, right? Like to say the least, he's not like the smartest, right?
Yeah.
But I
Just
mean,
like any
I don't
Jump
think,
protagonist, yeah.
yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
that takes away from the appeal of the character. All I think it is just Mashal as a series understanding exactly what it is and understanding that just almost kind of like in relation to its art style that simplicity is best for the most part, and then flashing with these kind of like sparks of brilliance really does highlight these scenes, whether it be the serious scenes of like Mash coming in to defend his friends, or it just be scenes like of serious moments where you see that a character's resolve to be faithful to their friend is like really strong, as we've seen in the most recent chapter of the series. Right, these serious moments do really hit home. It's not like it's anything profound. It's not a deconstruction of shonen or anything. Hunter fans. But it's definitely good. Like it's just a really, I think it's just like a really well executed version of like I guess character tropes that you can have, which I don't think is anything wrong. I just think it just knows what it is. It knows what demographic it's gearing towards, and it does it really well.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, when it comes to definitely the character personalities in general, it's quite obvious that they're not anything unique. I would say that they're definitely just similar tropes. You've got the overly kind of aggressive character, you've got the edgy
Yeah.
characters, you've got the silent characters, and those personalities are definitely amplified. But I feel as though because Marshall is the type of series that it is, and it's got that that kind of gag aspect. I personally wouldn't really class it as a gag series,
Yeah, me neither.
but it's definitely got that kind of overall comedic aspect, and I feel like that gives it a lot more of a chance to just get away with amplifying these tropish personalities and have people enjoy them purely because of the surrounding that they're in.
For sure, man. What about you, Asa? I know you're a little bit behind, but it shouldn't be. I mean, recently we got a little bit kind of like it's showing how it was something like the kind of like the shy kind of character kind of standing up for himself, kind of. So it is showing signs like kind of like character development early on. But from where you're at, I guess like you can give your opinion on it.
So when it comes to the overall like characters and stuff of the series and all that, I'm fine with it. Ronan basically said anything and everything I would say. It knows what its strengths are and it's playing to that. I'm fine with series having specific tropes or character types or developments that we've seen before, just executed in your own way that's entertaining and can still be appreciated, right? And that's what Mashal has done. Again, nothing too crazy, right?
Yeah.
But it's all enjoyable, and I think that's what the series is really all about, is enjoyment.
Do you find yourself like right now, because you kind of see it in more like of you find it more funny and stuff like comedy? Do you think this series like can get somewhere where it's just more than just that, like where it's more serious and like more battle
I
shonen
know-
type of way?
Yeah, I know series like Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball,
For sure, yeah.
completely changed.
Hmm.
Gintama's a series that I've heard completely changes after 60 chapters of trash. So, it's one of those things where you just kind of, you don't know what to expect and you never know what the author is going to do. But so far, what it has been doing has been great. So if it can expand and add to it even more, all the better.
For sure, man.
I like to think of it as like a kind of like almost the difference between like One Punch Man season 1 and One Punch Man season 2. Like in terms of
Yeah.
like, okay, like the first season was more geared towards comedy. Like there was story elements, but it was a very, very, very simple plot, right? It
Hmm.
was very simple. It was a lot more focused on the comedy aspect. And I think towards season 2, we get a lot more characterization of the characters, introducing people like Garo, his motivations of like things between heroes and monsters. I think, which is done really well. And I think Mashal is in kind of that transitioning phase where it's starting to, like, not necessarily gear out of comedy, but just add another dimension to it, right? So instead of it being just comedy with some serious aspects, I think it'd be comedy. It'd be like almost like this overall relatively plot driven shonen that is just extremely funny. Like the gags would probably be coming in several times a chapter. You'd be getting a lot of laughs, but the plot would always be moving forward, and in a direction that's interesting. Well, never really, I think, in my opinion, slowing down. Just because, like, when it comes to those types of comedy series, it's very hard to get bored if you enjoy that comedy. Because even if the plot's slowing down, the characters and their interactions are really where you derive that sort of enjoyment. So I think
Hmm.
Mashal has that advantage of being able to kind of test things, throw things at the wall, and see what sticks, while sticking to its already successful formula of being funny and having these character interactions be its strong suit.
For sure, man. I mean, yeah, that's definitely some really good points you added there. But I mean, I think that's all we have. And I like overall thoughts on the series. I guess we can go off over that. Like, where do you guys see the series? I mean, I already asked this earlier, but like, from right now where you're caught up at, what do you see happening within like the next 10 chapters or so?
I think after this arc, we're definitely going to see Marshall kind of find its place. I did mention that,
Yeah.
I think, earlier, but I think when at least this tournament arc is done, we're definitely going to see maybe a definite main antagonist
Mhm.
kind of get put into the story, and we're going to just learn about how the kids at the school are going to adapt to that, like just on some Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's maybe a lot of people watching this, including Arthur, that hasn't seen Harry Potter, so I can't really.
You'd be
spoil
surprised.
anything.
There is a lot of references from Harry Potter within the series itself.
yeah.
Like the volume covers are actually like replicas of the books or like the
Mhm.
special edition books, which is really cool.
Yeah. But like I definitely think that after this arc, the series is just gonna find find that comfort spot where
Yeah.
we don't have to jump from mini arc to mini arc. We're gonna get a
Mhm.
good long kind of fleshed out.
So yeah, man. What you think, Brendan?
I kind of, to build off what Energy said, I do think a main antagonist that like maybe Mash can't beat very easily would be pretty
Mhm.
interesting to see.
Yeah,
Like we
'cause right
have
n-
seen those
Yeah.
kind of like mini antagonists where like, oh no, he kind of lost. But like every other time he has a second encounter without really much difference in his physical like appearance or like any sort of like training, I
Mhm.
guess, conventional wise, he is able to beat them, right? Which is not a problem. I think it lends to just the comedy aspect in it, and it is pretty
Mhm.
cool. But I think having an antagonist that like Mash, maybe not for brute strength reasons, but like genuinely
He
doesn't
just
have
loses.
yeah, like he like
Yeah.
maybe like the hacks is just too insane for him to like he can't outspeed it, he can't like out punch it, right? It's just like something crazy, like just throwing an idea out there. It doesn't have to be this, but like something like time related, I think would be insane, simply because that doesn't seem like something you can just punch your way out of, right? That doesn't really. That's not like a like abilities we've seen before in the series or anything of that sort, where it's like a Mash just can't brute force his way, and maybe he has to like grow into a character who is able to rely on his friends who already rely on him and kind of have that give and take relationship evolve into
Yeah.
something more. But yeah.
Yeah, I think especially once we see Mash kind of lose and like he finds that person that can finally beat him with ease at least is when we'll start getting into like the serious stuff, which will probably be maybe at the end of this arc, maybe during this arc somewhere, maybe next arc. But I feel like it's definitely coming soon because he is getting a lot more cocky than I feel like usual. I mean, he's always cocky, but he's bringing it up a lot more than usual. So I definitely see something happening very, very soon. So yeah. I think, Asura, final thoughts?
Just hype.
Just
That's
hype.
it. Just hype.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of hard where you're at right now, but you should definitely catch up, and then we can talk about it some
I
more.
can do
But
that tonight.
yeah, go ahead, man. But I appreciate you guys for all you guys coming on, and all their links will be in the description box down below. And yeah, catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.